Boogeyman Bin.
Hello, Fright fans, and thank you again for joining me for Boogeyman Bin's Horror Zone. This is another movie review that I wanted to do. This is one that was in theaters recently. It originally came out in a limited capacity. It was a very independent film. I started hearing things about it late in 2014, early 2015, and then the reviews for this film just started coming out, and they were just fantastic reviews, just talking about it. It's like one of the best horror films in the last 20 years, that it was just groundbreaking, very different, and I was like, I had to check this film out, and luckily they started releasing it wider. Initially it only came out in like very limited screens, and then over the course of a couple weeks, towards the end of March, it started hitting more theaters, and it actually did very well for having a very small budget, and this was one that I was anxious to see, and I finally got to see it on the day before my birthday, which was April 13th, and the movie is It Follows. So I'm going to be talking about It Follows. Again, I won't be ruining any of the, no spoilers in this. It's just going to be straightforward, the plot, characters, cast and crew, and then, of course, giving my thoughts on the film. And I hope everyone looks forward to this review. Please stay tuned. A young woman is followed by an unknown supernatural force after getting involved in a sexual encounter. Movie stars Maika Monroe as Jay Height, Keir Zilchrist as Paul, Olivia Lucardi as Yara, Lily Seep as Kelly Height. The movie was written and directed by David Robert Mitchell. It Follows was a very different horror film. I think it's not going to be a film for everyone. I can say that right up front. There was a couple people in the audience when I saw it that I could tell were getting disinterested. In fact, a couple even left the theater. But I think it's just because it's a very slow-moving film. There's not a lot of action in it. I do think the film could have used a little bit more editing. There were some scenes that were in the film that didn't make sense, some that went on for longer than they needed to. There was some timing issues. I thought it could have been cut a little bit tighter, and I think maybe it would have retained some of the tension. But I have to say that It Follows is very original, and I really think that Maika Monroe, who plays Jay, is fantastic in the film. You really feel the plight that she's going through. It's very creepy. It has kind of a Ring vibe to it in terms of the subject matter of the Ring, which was, you watch the tape, you have 7 days to pass it along to somebody else, or you will die. So you pass the curse on to somebody else. Whereas with this one, it's almost like you can call it kind of like a sexually transmitted disease, where if you sleep with somebody, you have this curse, you sleep with somebody, it passes on to them, but then if they don't pass it on to somebody else, then everybody in the chain dies. So that means that not only will the person that has it now, that you just pass it on to, will die, but you will die, and everybody else that gave it to you and so on will die there. So I think that concept is very terrifying. Plus there's a couple of things in the film that just really freak you out about what these people are going through that have this curse. And this thing that's following them around can look like anybody. So it could look like your best friend, it could look like your father, it could look like, just anybody. And it slowly goes towards you, which is really creepy. So there's like some scenes in it that really got to me, especially one where the Jay character is in school, and that she sees something outside of her window. There was a lot of little, I felt like there was a lot of little homages to John Carpenter's Halloween. Just like in terms of just the setup pieces, where the neighborhoods were, and just some of the long shots. I just felt like they very much were harkening back to John Carpenter's Halloween. I also think the music in the film is fantastic. Disaster Piece is the one that did the score for this, and I actually bought the soundtrack because I just love the music. The music is very creepy. And it just is I love horror scores, especially really original horror scores, and I really feel like the music, it has a harkening back to like 80s and 70s, or 70s and 80s horror films. It's just really, really well done. Like I said, the only issues I really had with the film were the tightening. I felt like the pacing was off in a couple of spots. I felt like it went on too long in terms of how long the film was. There could have been, I think, if they would have tightened it up a little bit, I think it would have retained some of the terror that you have, especially early on in the film. But I still think it's a terrific film. It has a really creepy subject matter, and I have heard rumors that they are planning a second one. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, the film wasn't, it didn't make hundreds of millions of dollars, but it did really well for a low-budget film. But I definitely recommend watching It Follows if you like a slower-paced, tension-building horror film. There are some parts in the film that are really get you. I mean, where you're almost like turning away from the screen because you don't know what's coming. So anytime a film can do that, it works. It's a horror film. It's supposed to make you kind of tense and unnerving, and it really did that. And afterwards, I mean, it stayed with me. To give this film a rating, I would give this film 4.5 skulls. So yeah, like I said, I don't think it's the scariest horror film. There's a couple of recent horror films that I would put above this one, Sinister being one of them. But I do think that It Follows is a terrific original horror film that people need to support. I'm tired of remakes. I mean, they have the Poltergeist remake that's coming out in about, 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm just, every time I see that trailer, I cringe because I'm like, it didn't need to be remade. And I like seeing films like It Follows or The Babadook, these movies that are original, something different, something we haven't seen before. And I want original horror. Digging Up the Marrow is another one. I want to see something different. And I think the only way you can stop the remake trend, and like I said in the past, there are a lot of remakes I really like, but if we want to see something original, we need to support what's coming out that is original and different, and not just going back to the well of what worked 20 or 30 years ago. So again, thank you so much for watching this. Please go out and support It Follows if you haven't seen it. I'm sure it's still out in theaters right now. I don't know how many. I don't think it's as wide as it was, but you should give this film a chance, especially if you like more psychological, slow-moving horror films. I think you'll really enjoy it. So again, thanks so much for watching this review, and please stay tuned for some more cool videos coming very soon. Thanks so much for watching. Stay scared. Peace.